Hey guys, how is it going? Welcome to the channel again. So many of you requested a video tutorial on how to install Arch Linux dual booting with Windows using the rEFInd bootloader. So let's get going. So I booted up now the machine where Windows is installed with my Arch ISO, and I logged in through SSH to the installer. And the first thing I want to do is to check my internet connection. Since I have an Ethernet cable, I should have an IP. So I'll type in IP space A and hit enter. And as you can see here on the interface number 2, my Ethernet connection, I have an IP ending with 41. So if you have Wi-Fi, now you can type in Wi-Fi-menu. And when you hit enter, you will be presented with a list of networks. You can select yours, enter your password, and you will be connected and have an IP as well. So let me clean up this command here. And now that we have an IP, we can synchronize the network time protocol by typing in time date ctl set-ntp true and hit enter. All right, let me clean up the terminal. So the next step would be to tweak a little bit our mirror list so that we have enough speed to download packages we need to install Arch Linux. And for this, I'm going to use a package called Reflector. Now, a full tutorial about Reflector is going to come after the install, so you can watch that, and there is a link on the card up on the right. But during the install, I'm just going to give you a basic command so that we have a good functional list of mirrors. So first, we need to install the Reflector package. So we'll type in pacman-s reflector and hit enter. Accept the defaults here by hitting enter. And the package is installed. So what I recommend is always during the install to generate a simple mirror list based on the country, and having this list having the best servers with the best speeds on top. So to do this, we'll type in reflector. Then we specify the country. In my case, it's Switzerland. So I'll type in -C for country and then Switzerland. And then I'll specify the -- sort option. And the parameter is going to be rate. That means we are going to have the fastest mirrors on top. And then we need to tell Reflector where to save this list. So we'll type in -- save. And then our mirror list path, which is /etc/pacman.d/mirror list. And then we just hit enter. Now, if we have a look at the mirror list, we'll see what's in there. So let's type in cat/etc/pacman.d/mirror list and hit enter. And as you can see here, I have a list of servers based on my country with the best servers on the top. So that's going to be enough for the installation. Then after the install, we can proceed into optimize reflectors with other parameters. But right now we can type in now pacman-syyy to synchronize the servers and hit enter. And now we are ready to proceed. So let me clean up the terminal. And now let's type in lsblk. So as you can see here, we have 2 disks in the system. We have SDA, which is already formatted in 4 partitions, and this is the disk where Windows is installed. So we have a partition of 529 megs, one of 100 megs, 16 megs, and the main partition, the C partition, of 99 gigabytes. And then we have SDB, which is where we want to install Arch Linux. Now, before we continue, I need to know actually which of these partitions is the EFI partition in Windows. So to do this, we'll type in fdisk-L and hit enter. And as you can see here, we have our SDA drive here of 100 gigabytes, which is divided in 4 partitions. And we have the partition type here. So the one I'm looking for is this EFI system here. And I see here it corresponds to SDA2. So this is important because we will have to install the rEFInd bootloader in here. So we just need to know the partition path. Okay, so let me clean up the terminal and type again lsblk. And now let's proceed by formatting SDB, our drive where Arch is going to be installed. So we'll type in fdisk and then the partition path. So /dev/SDB and hit enter. Now we want to create a GPT label because this is a UEFI system. So we'll type in G and hit enter. And then we can proceed by creating our partition. So I want to create in this system just one partition, the root partition, because the EFI partition is already existing in the Windows installation. So we just need to mount afterwards the boot partition in our Linux system to the SDA2 partition in Windows. So let's create now the new partition here by typing in N for new and hit enter. I'll accept the default for the partition number 1 and hit enter here. I'll also accept the default for the first sector, so I'll just hit enter here. And because I want this partition to take the remainder of the disk, I'll accept also here the last sector, so I'll just hit enter. And now we need to write these changes to the disk, so I'll type in W and hit enter. And there you go. So let me clean up the terminal and type again lsbk. And as you can see here, we have now SDB1 of 100 gigabytes. This is where we are going to install Arch Linux. So the next step is formatting our SDB1 partition. So let's format this by typing in mkfs for make file system dot, and then the file system type, in this case is going to be ext4, a space, and then the partition path. So /dev/sdb1 and hit enter. So let me clean up the terminal again, and I'll type in again lsbk. And so now we formatted the partitions. Now we can mount them. So the first partition I want to mount is our SDB1 partition, which is going to be mounted under the /mount directory, which is our installation directory. So we'll do this by typing in mount, then the partition path, so /dev/sdb1 space, and then /mount, and hit enter. Now we need to mount SDA2, which is the Windows UEFI partition, into our boot directory, which is not existing yet. So we need to create that first. And to create the boot directory, we'll just type in mkdir /mount, because this is our installation directory, remember. And then the directory we want to create is /boot, and hit enter. And now we can mount SDA2 into this boot directory here. So we'll type in mount /dev/sda2 space /mount/boot and hit enter. And again, I'll clean up the terminal, and if we type in lsblk, we'll see here under the mount point, we have SDA2, which is under /mount/boot, and SDB1 is under /mount, which is our installation directory. So we can proceed now by installing the base package, and to do this, we'll type in pacstrap /mount, remember this is our installation directory, and then the packages. So I want to install the base package, and then the Linux package, which contains the latest kernel, and then I'm going to install also Linux-firmware, and an editor which I'll need later, in my case Nano, and hit enter. And it's going to take a moment to download and install the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. So the base package is now installed, and I'll clean up the terminal. And now it's time to generate the fstab file, our file system table. And to do this, we'll type in gen fstab -U /mount, and then twice the major than symbol, and then /mount /etc/fstab. So the file system table is going to be generated using the U option here, which is the UUID for the partitions we have. And this output is going to be put into the fstab file, which is under the etc directory in our installation directory. And then we'll just hit enter. Now let's have a look at what's in the fstab file. Let's type in cat /mount /etc/fstab and hit enter. And you see here we have SDB1, our root partition here with its UUID, its mount point, our root directory, its file system type, its options, and the dump backup option, which is 0. And the number 1 here indicates that this partition is going to be checked at boot for errors. Then we have also here SDA2 with its UUID, its mount point, its file system type, its options, and also the 0 for the dump backup here, and number 2, meaning this partition is going to be checked second when we boot the machine. So everything looks good, and we can clean up the terminal. Now it's time to move into the installation and leave the ISO installer. And to do this, we'll type in arch-root /mount. Remember /mount, our installation directory, and hit enter. So now we are in our installation, and the first thing I want to do is to create a swap file. So to do this, I'll type in fallocate -l, and the size in my case is going to be 2 gigabytes, and then /swapfile. So we are allocating a 2 gigabytes file for the swap file basically, and hit enter. Now we need to give read and write permissions to the swap file, so we'll type in chmod 600 /swapfile and hit enter. Now we can make the swap by typing in mkswap /swapfile and hit enter. And we can also activate the swap by typing in swap on /swapfile and hit enter. Now we need to put the swap file in the fstab file. So to do this, we'll type in nano, the editor we installed before, /etc/fstab and hit enter. We scroll down here to the empty space and we type in /swapfile, the swapfile name, and then none for the mount point because it doesn't have any. And the file system type is swap. And the options is defaults. And then a 0 for the dump backup, and then again a 0 for the file system check because the swap file doesn't need to be checked at boot. And then Ctrl O and Enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. All right, now let me clean up the terminal and we can move on to our localization stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is to work on the time zone. So I'll type in ln-sf/user/share/zone info/Europe in my case /Zurich in my case, and then space, and then /etc/local time. So basically we are linking my time zone here with the local time file under the exe directory, and then hit enter. Now we can synchronize the hardware clock to the system clock. So we'll type in HW clock --sys2hc system to hardware clock and hit enter. Now we need to work on the locale.gen file. So let's do this by typing in nano/etc/locale.gen and hit enter. Now we need to look for the locale we want to use in our system. So I want to use English US here. So I'll scroll down until I find it. And there are two of those. And the one we need to use is the one ending with UTF-8. So we just need to uncomment this line by deleting the hashtag and then hitting Ctrl O and Enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. Now we can generate the locales that we just selected by typing in locale-gen and hit enter. And now we can also work on the locale.conf file. So to do this, we'll type in echo and then lang, all capital letters, equal the string we chose before, which is up there. So in my case, it's en_us.utf-8. And then close the double quote, a space, and then twice the measurement symbol, and then /etc/locale.conf and hit enter. So what we did here, we added this language string into the locale.conf file. Okay, now that we work on the localization stuff, we can move on to the host name and the hosts file. So let me clean up the terminal. And first, let's set our host name. So to set the host name, we'll type in hostname ctl set-hostname and then the name of your machine. So I'll choose Arch here. You can choose whatever you want and hit enter. Now, if we type in host name ctl, we'll see our static host name is Arch, and this is the host name we chose. So everything looks good. So I'll clean up the terminal here. And the next thing is to work on the hosts file. So we'll type in nano/etc/hosts and hit enter. Go down to the empty space and enter our IPv4 address, which is 127.0.0.1, a tab, and then localhost. And then next column, the IPv6 address, which is ::1, tab, localhost again. And then in the last line, we'll type in 127.0.1.1, a tab, and then our host name, so in my case, arch.local domain, and then a tab again, and a host name again. So in my case, Arch. You replace this accordingly. And then hit Ctrl O and Enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. So now it's time to give our root user here a password. So we'll type in passwd and hit enter. Selecting a new password and repeat it. And now it's time to install our rEFInd bootloader and some other packages. So we'll do this by typing in pacman-s. So the first package is rEFInd-EFI, the rEFInd bootloader. And then we have EFI boot mgr, EFI boot manager, because this is a UEFI system, we need this. And then we have network manager. We have also network-manager-applet. And we have also wireless_tools. We have also WPA_supplicant. And I'll install also dialog and also OS prober. And then mtools, DOS, FS tools. These two packages here are useful when we are working with fat file systems. And then two development packages. One is base-devel and also Linux-headers. And then we can just hit enter. Accept the defaults by hitting enter, and accept the installation by hitting enter. So it's going to take a moment to download and install the packages again, and I'll be back when it's done. So the packages are now installed, and I clean up the terminal. And now we can proceed by installing the rEFInd bootloader. So the rEFInd bootloader will automatically detect the Windows installation, so we don't have to worry about that. We just have to configure it for the Arch Linux install here. So to install rEFInd, we'll type in rEFInd-install, and then --use default, because I want to use default options for this system. And then we specify our EFI partition. If you remember, that was SDA2, which belongs to our Windows installation. So I'll type in /dev/SDA2, a space, and then I'll add also the --all drivers option so that I can configure after the installation for Arch Linux, and hit enter. And I clean up the terminal. And now we need to also generate the rEFInd configuration file. So we'll type in mkrl-conf and hit enter. There you go. So let's now go into our boot directory by typing in cd/boot and hit enter. And typing in ls, we'll see the contents of this directory. And as you can see here, we have our rEFInd_linux.com file. This is one we want to edit first. So to do this, we'll type in nano and then the name of the file, so rEFInd_linux.conf, and hit enter. So you can see here we have boot with standard options and boot single user mode. This basically belongs to our Arch ISO, which we don't actually need, because once the system is installed, the ISO here will not be anymore available. So we can actually delete the first two lines here by hitting Ctrl-K and the second time as well. And then we can hit Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. Now we need to go into the EFI directory, which is right here. So we'll type in cd EFI and hit enter. And let's type in ls. And we see we are now in our SDA2 partition, which belongs to the Windows installation. And in there, we have a boot directory and a Microsoft directory. So we need to go into the boot directory here. So to do this, we'll type in cd boot and hit enter. And let's list the files again by typing in ls. And the file we need to edit again, it's a rEFInd.com file. So let's type in nano and then rEFInd.conf and hit enter. So this file contains all options for many different systems. So we need to search for the Arch Linux one. So we'll hit Ctrl-W to search, and we'll type in into the search box here, Arch space Linux, and hit enter. And now we are in the paragraph for Arch Linux. And what we need to do here is to go down to the options and replace this UUID with our root partition, which, if you remember, is /dev/sdb1. And then you hit Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. So let me clean up the terminal, and I go back to my home directory here. And now we can also enable Network Manager, our internet connection, so that the next time when the system boots, it's going to be started automatically. So we'll type in systemctl enable Network Manager with capital N and capital M, and hit enter. And now we can proceed also to create a user for the system. So first, let me clean up the terminal, and I'll type in user add -m capital G wheel, and then the username, in my case, hermano. So what this command does is it's adding a user to the system with a home directory, which is the M option, and the capital G option defines the supplementary group for this user, which is going to be the wheel group. And we are going to configure the wheel group in a minute for the sudo privileges. Right now, we just hit enter, and then we give also the user a password. So we'll type in passwd, and then the username, enter a new password, and retype it. And now let's give this user sudo privileges. So we'll type in editor equal nano, and then vice sudo, and hit enter. And we'll scroll down here until we find our wheel group we talked about before. And we have to be careful, there are two of those. We need to select the first one, which has the line saying all equal all, and we uncomment this line here by deleting the hashtag again. And then hit again Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. Now, before we reboot the machine, I want to install an extra package. This is optional for you guys. I need to install this in order to connect with the SSH afterwards when the machine reboots. So I'll type in pacman-s open SSH and hit enter and accept the installation by hitting enter here. And this is now done. So now we can exit the installation and return to the ISO installer by typing in exit and hit enter. And we can unmount all the partitions here by typing in umount-a and hit enter. And now you can reboot the machine by typing in reboot and hitting enter. And you will be greeted by the rEFInd bootloader, where you should see your Windows installation as well as your Arch installation. So let's go ahead now and type in reboot, and we'll meet in a second on the rEFInd bootloader. And there you go, guys. We are now greeted by the rEFInd bootloader. So as you can see, we have three options here. We have one option is our Windows installation here. We have also our Linux installation here in the middle. And we have also still our ISO mounted into the system. That's why it's presented as a boot option. So I want to go ahead here and finish my Linux installation. So I'll select here my Penguin and hit enter. And it's going to boot up now the Arch Linux install. And I'll log in with my username I created before and the password. Then I want to start SSH because I want to go back to my bigger terminal here. So I'll type in sudo systemctl start SSHE and hit enter. Enter my password. And type in IP space A. And I see I have an IP there ending with 40. Don't worry if you don't have one, and if you have Wi-Fi, we'll do this in a second. So I go back to the big terminal and I'll be back with you in a second. And now I'm logged in with SSH to the bigger terminal so that you guys can see better. Now, if you have a Wi-Fi connection and you don't have an IP yet, we can type in nmtui and hit enter. Go to activate a connection and hit enter. And here you will see a list of your networks. You can select yours, enter the password, and you'll have an IP as well. But I don't need to do this, so I'll just get out of the program and clean up the terminal. And let's proceed with our installation by installing our graphics driver. So let's do this by typing in sudo pacman-s. And I'm installing here on a virtual machine, so I'll type in xf86-video-qxl, and I'll give you the packages for your Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA cards in a sec. So I'll just hit enter here and enter my password and proceed with the installation by hitting enter. There you go. And now I clean up the terminal and replace this package. If you have an Intel card here, you can replace QXL with Intel. And if you have an AMD card, you replace Intel with AMD GPU. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you replace the whole thing here with NVIDIA and also NVIDIA-utils. And when you hit enter, you will have your graphic cards drivers installed. So the next step is to actually install the display server. So to do this, we'll type in sudo pacman-s xorg and hit enter. Accept the defaults by hitting enter and proceed with the installation by hitting enter. It's going to take a moment here to install the packages. Should be fairly quick. There you go. So I'll clean up the terminal. Now we need to decide which desktop environment we want to install. So in this video, I'm going to go with GNOME. So the display manager for GNOME is GDM. So I'll type in sudo pacman-s and then GDM. If you want to install KDE, you will replace GDN with SDDM and then hit enter. Proceed with installation by hitting enter. And there you go, the packages are installed. So I clean up the terminal. Now we need to activate the display manager so that it starts automatically at boot. So we'll type in sudo systemctl enable. In my case, GDM. If you install SDDM, you replace this with SDDM and hit enter. Now it's time to install the desktop environment. So to do this, we'll type in sudo pacman-s. And then I want to install GNOME, but I give you first the packages for KDE. So for KDE, the first package is Plasma. Then we have also KDE-applications. And if you want to have also user directories like photos, videos, documents, and so on, you can install also xdg-user-dirs. And also if you want to update the packages via the Discover Software Center, you'll need also package kit-qt5. In my case, I want to install GNOME, so I'll delete this and replace only 2 packages. So the first one is GNOME, and the second one is GNOME-extra. This is optional, but if you want to have some extra programs for GNOME, you can install this. I'll go ahead and install both, so I'll just hit enter and accept the defaults by hitting enter. Again, accept the defaults by hitting enter. One more time hitting enter, and one more time, one last time. And now we can proceed with the installation by hitting enter. So it's going to take a moment to download and install the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. And there you go. GNOME is now installed, so we can clean up the terminal and type in reboot, and we'll meet back in the GNOME desktop. So this is GDM, so I'll hit here my username and enter my password and hit enter. And I'll have to fix my display first, so I'll right click on the desktop here and click display settings and go to the resolution here and choose mine and bump up to 100% and keep the changes, and there you go, we are now set. So the first thing I do is to give volume here. The driver is not missing, it's just the volume is mute. And so let's pull up a terminal and let's look for updates. So I go full screen here and increase the font size, and we'll type in sudo pacman-syyu and hit enter. Enter my password, and there is nothing to do, the system is up to date. And so this is how to install Arch Linux dual booting with Windows 10 using the rEFInd bootloader. Let me know how it worked out for you guys, and I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button below and subs to the channel if you haven't already, because subs really helps us out, guys. And if there is anything specific you want me to cover or you have any question, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.